we certainly don't have all the answers. We've tried, and we think that we're doing a fairly good job as far as from our point of view. Maybe I'll be educated by you all after this presentation, and you'll point the holes out. But we're certainly trying, and like I say, we don't have all the answers. But as you all know, the ADT rule went into effect in March of 2013, and just a little background there. It's tried to set some national standards, and by doing national standards, it also tried to give the states flexibility. So trying to integrate the strengths and experience of the states and let them tailor their programs to what they had in place, and also to what fit their requirements going forward. But what you do when you bring it into the states and put it in the states' hands, along with that freedom, you give 50 states a chance to respond to their unique challenges, and you end up with 50 solutions and probably 50 different results. So a national program with 50 different working parts is a little difficult. One advantage we had in South Dakota from our perspective is we're relatively recently brucellosis free. So because of that, we had many of the mechanisms we had for brucellosis control still in place. We had our ID requirements on breeding cattle. Any change of ownership of breeding cattle was documented through our office. Official IDs were read. We had back tag reporting from our auction markets sent to our office as well. South Dakota also licenses livestock dealers, so we have some knowledge base there as far as who's out there and who's buying and selling cattle and things like that. And then because of the recent brucellosis status of our state, brucellosis vaccination is still very common in the cattle coming into the breeding herd and things like that, so that's another opportunity for official ID to be placed. So we really look at it as a big puzzle. Traceability is the puzzle, and everybody's got a little part to play and a little piece of it. So what I wanted to do is really try to give a shout out, number one, to our staff, and number two, put faces to the people in South Dakota that actually do the hard work and do the jobs. So we have a permit system for pretty much everything that comes into the state. We require an import permit, and that's veterinarian, when they write the CVIs, calling our office and getting a permit number to put on the CVI. This is Lynette. She's our primary receptionist on the phone, first on the phone, and she issues these permit numbers, or at least most of them. Certainly trickles down to other people in the office. If she's busy, other people are issuing permits as well. She's also responsible for following up on veterinarians sending in CVIs that don't have a permit number that should have. So she'll be calling them up and asking them if the permit number didn't get put on the CVI, or if they just forgot to call. Keeps track of people that are chronic offenders, if you want to call it that, people that always forget. And we contact them, we send letters out to them letting them know that South Dakota does have a permit requirement. South Dakota has an advantage. It's in state law that it's a Class 6 felony to import animals illegally into the state. We certainly don't go around putting people in jail for that all the time, but it is there as an option for those that are consistently non-compliant. We also have the ability to quarantine animals which are imported illegally. Some states, I know, struggle with that as well, but we can do that. And just an example, in fiscal year 2014, our office issued over 17,000 import permits. This is our screenshot of our import permit database. We fill out all that information, veterinarian, where it's coming from, where it's going to, number of animals, testing requirements, and history, when it's going to be leaving. The import permit number down there ties to the health certificate number. It's kind of small, but this is where we enter our permit number, and then the certificate's right there. And then we go back through that system when we get the copy of the CVI sent to us and make sure that everything correlates, that the numbers that we were given correlates to what on the paperwork and things like that. Another component of what we're doing is our change of ownership. I mentioned that earlier. That's been in place for a long time, since the early 90s at least. We have official ID read and recorded on any change of ownership. That applies in the auction markets. That applies to private treaty, private sales, and things like that. Certainly, there are some of those private sales and things like that doesn't happen. That do not get reported to us, but it is a requirement. And if we become aware of those situations, we have the ability to go out and quarantine those animals or run them through the chute and get those official IDs read and recorded. This is Amanda. She records all the official IDs that come in on the change of ownership forms from the auction markets, from private veterinarians and things like that, puts them in the database. Breeding cattle over 18 months of age is how we define the animals eligible or required to be ID'd. Recently, we've also started in auction markets asking or having our veterinarians record official ID on feeder cows and bulls greater than 18 months of age that are coming from out of state into the South Dakota auction market and then going back to the country in South Dakota to be fed. That's an interstate movement. Those animals a lot of times come into the auction market without a CVI. They can come directly to the market because they're tagging sites and come in. We wouldn't have an official ID on that movement unless it was recorded on the way out of that auction market into the South Dakota feed yard. Last year, primarily Amanda entered over 181,000 official IDs into our database. We're also trying to get a lot of these official IDs submitted to us electronically. That eliminates some of the human error and some of the difficulty in reading the official IDs on some of that paperwork. Here's a copy of one of the electronics that's sent in to us. We have the owner's name and purpose. This was in an auction market, as you can see. The owner's name, the town of origin, and then these, of course, are all out-of-state cattle originating from North Dakota and Minnesota that were sold through this auction market back into South Dakota, or back to a South Dakota feed yard. So those are recorded on the way out. We also keep track of import CVIs, and this is Kiva. She's our import CVI coordinator. We require official ID listed on the CVIs for most animals in accordance with the ADT rule. We enter those CVIs into a searchable database, and then we cross-reference the permit number that I mentioned earlier with those CVIs so that we can go back and see what was done. Make sure testing and those things were all done according to what our requirements are. We try to keep track of veterinarians and their submission to us as far as if they're submitting the CVIs timely in a timely manner. We follow up on those. We certainly follow up on inaccuracies between the imported CVI and the permit number and the database that we've collected on the permit side as well. Had over 25,000 CVIs for animals shipped to South Dakota, over 600,000 cattle, and those CVIs came from 48 states. In our livestock markets, as I mentioned, they're certainly a valuable part of our traceability framework. We have 32 licensed auction markets licensed through our office. We have our livestock dealer's office. We are licensed through us as well. We have the records requirement in place that they keep those records for 5 years. In our experience, those records may be not as accurate as we'd like, but at least they're there and there's something there for us to go back to, and at least it's not a totally empty blank when we start looking. We have veterinarians in the auction markets on every sale day. They're there from before the sale until a time frame after the sale when they have all the CVIs written and things like that for inspection of cattle, determining which cattle would need CVIs, etc. Over 2 million cattle, a couple 100,000 sheep, and some hogs and horses going through our auction markets every year. All these records that are entered into our database is, we have a records coordinator. This is Lacey. She's in charge of making sure all the data is entered into the databases correctly, timely. The other ladies in the office that I've mentioned before are getting their work done. She also keeps track of all official test charts that come in, brucellosis, TB, etc. Enters all those official IDs off those test charts into our database so that those numbers pop up when we try to search it. She gets the brucellosis official CAFID vaccination certificates from the federal office, has access to that data as well, oversees all the data entry, follows up with a lot of the non-compliant CVIs with private veterinarians, follows up with other states if they're having issues with either South Dakota veterinarians or their state's private veterinarians submitting things to us. And then she also handles our premises registrations, especially lately with the hog side and all the requirements for cull sows and things like that to have premises IDs tied back. We've had a lot of increased premises regulation IDs issued. Here's a copy or a screenshot of one of our change of ownership searches. You can see the official tag there on the left-hand side, 46 AEW 4877. And the first time that animal was marked in our change of ownership would have been January of 2010 when it went through Fate Livestock, which is an auction market sold by a producer from Henniger, North Dakota. That same animal came back in May of 2010, probably after that producer calved that cow out and sold it as a pair. It was again purchased and then came back through Fort Pierre Livestock in 2012 in January. And then that producer probably calved that animal out again, had it through summer and sold it in September of 2012 to a fourth producer who probably bought it as a bred cow and probably still has it today, or it's gone to slaughter. So we have pretty good traceability on the actual movements of that animal. As with any database and things like that, you can have some issues. We had a little issue trying to get the data entered. So it looks like this cow moved around a lot, but really there's 7 entries for the same movement. It's just one of the quirks of having manual data entry and things like that. But we can still accomplish what we're looking for. Here, the first movement in 2008, obviously multiple entries for that movement, but then it moved again in 2010 and then again in 2012, all 3 times moving through Fort Pierre Livestock. This is Peggy. She handles our export CVIs. She files those according to the destination state. We do not enter the IDs, official IDs off those export CVIs into our database. We would if we had a little bit more staffing, but we just don't have the people right now to do that. We'd like to, and it's hopefully a goal in the future that we get that done. But almost 34,000 export CVIs last year, so it's a lot of numbers and going to require at least 1, if not 2 more people to get that done. She also handles our back tag reports. So she receives those from each auction market, and also different veterinarians that work in those auction markets, they have separate back tags for work they do at the auction market. So she receives and coordinates those back tag reports. I think you can see on that one the back tag is the second column there on the left. So that all that information would be entered by Peggy on her back tag report as well. So we'd have a cross-reference between the back tag and the official tag at that time. Then our Traceability Coordinator is Dr. Susan Reinders. I'm sure many of you know her and have seen her at meetings. She does an incredible job of tying it all together. Handles the test traces that we're given and things like that. She's also been responsible for going out and coordinating meetings with our auction markets, getting the inspecting veterinarian and the auction market owners in the room at the same time, going through what the requirements are, what the responsibilities are of the veterinarian versus the owner, and how they need to coordinate and work together to accomplish what's needed for interstate shipment and things like that, or from our point of view, from our change of ownership just within South Dakota. She also has been monitoring the NVSL test results on TB submissions and things like that sent in from slaughter plants. She monitors those, follows up on those. If we don't have official ID listed on those submissions, then she follows up to find out the reason for that, whether the official ID wasn't there or simply wasn't submitted. She's been tracking some trends of that, and I'll have some stats on that here in a little bit. And then she communicates with the industry and tries to keep up on the new technology with the RFID tags and things like that to try to see where we can use them most effectively. Here's one of those submissions. You can see it came out of Hub City Livestock Auction up on the top left. That's the owner. Went to Swift. The animal ID, we have a 46 official tag, vaccinate tag. We have a 46 HU, which is a Hub City back tag. So not only the owner is listed as Hub City, we also got that animal back tagged appropriately, and the back tag stayed in place until it was slaughtered. It was all collected. We probably get, I don't know, roughly 3 to 5 of these a day, I suppose. And we follow up on those and just kind of monitor those. Here's another one. AFG is American Foods Group. They feed a lot of animals, a lot of cull cows in South Dakota. We have the pen number to their, and Tacky is the feeder, the location of their feeder group. So we have the pen number they came out of. We know exactly where the premises they arrived from was. We have an official ID tag. We have a 46 MC, which is a Mitchell Livestock in Mitchell, South Dakota. Their back tag, so we're still carrying a back tag as well. So that back tag stayed on for the duration of the feeding of this animal, which may have been as short as 2 weeks, but certainly could have been longer. But it was still there and still pulled by the inspector or by the plant officials there at Simples in Yankton, South Dakota. Another one. This is from a private livestock dealer, not through a auction market or anything like that, but or not submitted as under an auction market, but from a dealer directly to slaughter. Again, we have official ID, a 46 VAX tag, and a 46 YL, which is Yankton Livestock. So again, the back tag stayed on and was recorded. So we have good traceability, even from a dealer not going through the auction market. And here's a private feed yard, Hanson Feed Yard down in Beersford, South Dakota. We don't have a official ID on this animal, but this animal was a younger animal, a feeder animal that went straight to slaughter from that feed yard. So even though we don't have official ID, we can certainly trace the animal to this feed yard and through their records we'd be able to see which pen this animal came out of, and hopefully through their records and who sourced animals into that pen. So we'll never have 100% official ID collected at slaughter because there was no slaughter required here on a direct feed yard to slaughter plant shipment. So here's some of our stats, pre-ADT rule versus post-ADT rule. And this is, again, just the NVSL submissions. It's really our monitoring system we have. ID collected pre-ADT versus post-ADT. You see we've had an uptick of 14%. We've broken that down between animals that move through auction markets versus animals that move from feed yards, which may be younger animals or cows and older animals. We've increased our official ID collection in all aspects, which we take as a good sign. Like I say, it's just a monitoring system. It's a snapshot of what we're doing. Certainly doesn't tell the whole picture, but if that is increasing, we'd certainly believe that it's increasing overall. So South Dakota's people are really what we're depending on to get the job done, I guess, and they're the people that make it happen. All those people responsible for a lot of different parts to the puzzle, and the people and the parts are really South Dakota's answer to ADT. So with that, I'll take any questions.